The Interstellar Academy floated in the sky of a distant planet, a shining building of silver and glass. It was a place where creatures from many worlds came to learn together. Tall aliens with long arms, winged beings, and even creatures that looked like glowing crystals walked its halls. Among them, one small figure moved quietly, almost invisible. Her name was Luma. She was tiny, no bigger than a human child of 10, with soft green skin that glowed faintly under the academy lights. Her big round eyes were curious and gentle, but often filled with fear. Luma had come to the academy to learn about other worlds, technology, and science, but fitting in was harder than she had imagined. Luma kept to herself. She moved slowly in the hallways, carrying her books close to her chest. Other students whispered as she passed. Some called her tiny weakling or little pest. Her small size made her an easy target. She never shouted back. She only tried to hide, hoping the bullying would stop. Today, the bullying was worse than usual. 3 students, all much larger than Luma, waited near the cafeteria. One of them, a tall alien with orange scales and sharp claws, blocked the hallway. "Look who's here," he said with a sneer. The little glowing bug, Luma froze. Her stomach twisted. She wished she could disappear. She tried to squeeze past, but another alien stepped in front of her. This one had 6 arms and sharp spines on his back. "Where do you think you're going, little one?" he mocked. "Books too heavy for you?" Luma lowered her head and whispered, "Please, just let me go." The third student, a tall humanoid with pale skin and glowing eyes, laughed loudly. "She's so small. Maybe we should carry her around for fun." Luma's heart pounded. She wanted to cry, but she swallowed the tears. She had learned that showing fear made things worse. Just then, a human boy stepped into the hallway. Jason Riker, a human exchange student, had been walking to the library when he saw the scene. He was taller than Luma, but not as big as the bullies. Still, there was something in his posture, calm and confident, that made people notice him. Jason's eyes narrowed. "Hey, leave her alone." The bullies turned to him, surprised. "And who are you?" the orange-scaled alien asked. "The human wants to protect a tiny alien?" "That's funny." Jason didn't step back. He kept his voice firm. "I said leave her alone now." The bullies laughed. "You're small too, human. You think you can stop us?" The spiny alien stepped forward. Jason didn't move. Instead, he raised his hands, palms open, showing he wasn't going to attack. "I don't need to fight you. I just need you to stop." Luma watched from the side. She could not believe a human was standing up for her. Nobody had ever done that before. The bullies continued to laugh, but Jason stayed calm. He didn't shout, didn't threaten. He just looked at them with steady eyes. "If you hurt her, everyone here will see it. And I promise it won't end well for you." The humanoid with glowing eyes tilted his head. "Or what, you'll cry at us?" Jason shook his head. "No, but you'll regret it if you keep bullying someone smaller. There are better ways to show strength. This isn't one of them." The bullies stopped for a moment, confused. They weren't used to anyone speaking like that. Most creatures at the academy solved problems with size or power. Humans were strange. They were smaller, weaker in appearance, but somehow dangerous in ways that were not obvious. Jason took a step closer to Luma. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Luma nodded quickly, but her voice was barely audible. Yes." Jason glanced at the bullies again. "Now leave, or go somewhere else and waste your energy." For a moment, it seemed like the bullies might attack him, but something in Jason's calm confidence made them pause. The orange-scaled alien growled and turned away. "This isn't over, little bug," he said to Luma before walking away with his friends. Luma blinked. She could not believe it. The bullies were gone. She felt a strange warmth inside her chest. For the first time, she felt protected. "Thank you," she whispered, looking up at Jason. Jason smiled gently. "It's okay. Nobody should have to go through that." Luma felt shy but also curious. How did you do that?" Jason shrugged lightly. "I didn't do anything scary. I just stood my ground and stayed calm. You'd be surprised how many problems that can solve." Luma thought about that. She had spent so much time trying to hide or run, but maybe there was another way. Maybe she could be brave too. Jason noticed her hesitation. "Do you want to walk with me? I can show you a quieter place." Luma nodded slowly. She picked up her books, and together they walked through the academy. Jason pointed out places where students could study quietly and shared little tips about navigating the halls without trouble. Luma listened carefully, absorbing every word. As they walked, she noticed Jason looked ordinary but somehow different from everyone else. He didn't try to show off. He didn't care about who was bigger or stronger. He only cared about what was right. By the time they reached a small garden terrace, Luma felt calmer. Flowers from distant planets bloomed in soft colors and a gentle light shone from floating lamps. It was peaceful. Jason smiled. This is one of my favorite places. I like to come here when I need to think. Luma glanced around, amazed. It's beautiful. Jason nodded. It is. And it's safe too. You can sit here without worrying about bullies. For the first time in a long while, Luma felt a little hope. She realized that even in a place full of big, strong aliens, there were beings who could be kind and brave. She looked at Jason with wide eyes. I've never had anyone help me like that before. I always thought I would always be alone. Jason shook his head firmly. No one has to be alone. Not if someone is willing to stand by them. And it's okay to ask for help. It doesn't make you weak. Luma smiled faintly. She wanted to ask him more, but she felt shy. Jason seemed to understand. You don't have to say anything. Just know that you're not alone anymore. They sat quietly for a while, watching the floating lights above. Luma's mind raced with new thoughts. Maybe she could learn to be brave. Maybe she could find a place where she belonged. Jason finally stood up. I have to go check on some assignments. But I'll see you later, okay? Luma nodded. Yes. Thank you again, Jason. Jason waved and walked away, leaving Luma in the peaceful garden. She took a deep breath. For the first time, the academy didn't feel like a scary place. It felt possible. But deep inside, Luma knew that the bullies were not gone forever. They would come back, and she wasn't sure if she would be ready next time. Still, one thing was certain. She would not face it alone. She had seen what a human could do. She had felt the courage that kindness could bring. And maybe, just maybe, she could find that courage in herself too. The day continued, but Luma walked taller. Her books clutched in her arms felt lighter. For the first time, she believed that being small didn't mean being weak. And somewhere in the halls of the academy, a human named Jason Riker had quietly made a difference. He had stood up for the tiniest among them, and that small act of bravery would change everything. The next morning at the academy, the hallways were alive with students from many worlds. Some hovered above the floor, some moved on long legs, and some shimmered with soft light. Luma walked quietly, trying not to attract attention. She still felt the sting from yesterday, but something inside her had changed. She had seen a human stand up for her. Maybe she thought she could find courage too. But courage is tested in small ways first before it becomes strong. As she approached the cafeteria, Luma felt her stomach twist. The same bullies from yesterday were there, leaning against the walls and laughing loudly. They spotted her and grinned. Look who's back, the orange-scaled alien said. The tiny bug. Are you ready for more? Luma tried to step around them, but the humanoid with glowing eyes blocked her path. Not so fast. Maybe you should stay and listen. We have some advice for you. Luma's hands trembled. She had hoped they had forgotten her, but they had not. Her heart raced, and she felt the familiar urge to run. Before she could say anything, a familiar voice cut through the noise. That's enough. It was Jason Riker. He had come early to the cafeteria to meet some friends, but he saw the bullying happening again. His eyes were calm but firm as he stepped forward. The bullies turned to him, surprised. And what are you doing here again, human? The spiny alien asked. You think you can stop us? Jason shook his head. I don't need to fight you. I just need you to leave her alone now. The bullies laughed, loud and cruel. You're small. You can't do anything. Go back to your human planet. Jason took a deep breath. Strength isn't only about size. You have a choice here. You can be bigger in body but smaller in heart, or you can leave her alone and show real strength. The bullies paused, confused. Humans were strange creatures. They didn't seem powerful, but they were fearless in ways others weren't. Jason looked at Luma and smiled gently. Are you okay? Luma nodded, though her hand shook. I think so. Jason turned back to the bullies. I won't ask again. Leave her alone. For a moment, it seemed like they would attack. The cafeteria was crowded and all eyes were on them. Then slowly, the orange-scaled alien stepped back. You're lucky this time, human. But next time, Jason didn't move. He didn't look angry. He only said next time you might not be so lucky if you keep hurting others. Think about it. The bullies snorted, muttered something under their breath, and left the cafeteria, dragging their friends behind them. The other students whispered among themselves. Humans were not easily scared. They had courage, and it made them different. Luma let out a shaky breath. She felt a strange warmth inside her chest, a mix of relief and admiration. "Thank you, Jason," she said quietly. Jason smiled. "You're welcome. But remember, it's not just me. Courage can come from you too. You don't have to be big to stand tall." Luma blinked. "Stand tall?" Jason nodded. "Yes, even small creatures can have a strong heart. And your heart is stronger than you think." Luma felt a small smile tug at her lips. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to be brave, like Jason. After lunch, Jason walked Luma to a quiet study area in the library. The room was calm, with soft light and floating shelves. Students from many planets studied quietly, reading and working on projects. Jason sat down and pulled out a small notebook. "I like to make notes about things I learn," he said. "It helps me think. Do you want to see?" Luma nodded. Jason showed her drawings of stars, alien plants, and sketches of devices. He explained each one simply. Luma was fascinated. She had always loved learning, but studying alone had felt lonely. Now with someone sharing it, learning felt exciting. "You're really smart," Jason said. "Do you like science?" Luma's eyes brightened. "I love it. I like studying about other planets and creatures. But I'm not very good with other students." Jason smiled gently. "That's okay. You don't need to be the loudest or the strongest. You only need to be yourself. And if someone bullies you, there's always a way to handle it without being mean back." Luma thought about that. Yesterday, Jason had faced the bullies without fighting. He had been clever, calm, and brave. Maybe she could learn that too. Over the next few days, Jason helped Luma practice small ways to stand up for herself. Sometimes it was as simple as speaking clearly and confidently. Other times it was finding ways to avoid the bullies without running. One afternoon, as they walked through the training grounds, the bullies appeared again. This time they had brought a group of friends to intimidate Luma. "Look who's here," the orange-scaled alien sneered. The tiny bug and her human protector. "Are you ready for more?" Luma froze. Her heart pounded. She wanted to hide. But then she remembered Jason's words. "You don't need to be big to stand tall." Jason stepped forward calmly. "We're ready, but we won't fight you. We'll solve this differently." The spiny alien laughed. "Solve it differently? What do you mean?" Jason smiled slightly. He held up his hands and spoke clearly. "You have two choices. You can keep bullying her and show you are small in heart, or you can walk away and show that you are strong in spirit. The choice is yours." The bullies hesitated. They were not used to being challenged this way. Most creatures obeyed power, not words. Jason's calm confidence confused them. Luma felt a small spark of courage. She stepped slightly forward. "Please, just leave me alone," she said, her voice shaking but clear. The humanoid with glowing eyes looked at her and then at Jason. For the first time, he saw that this small alien was not afraid to speak. The group murmured among themselves. Finally, the orange-scaled alien growled. "This isn't over," he said, but they walked away, muttering under their breath. Luma turned to Jason. I think I can do this," she whispered. Jason smiled. "You're doing it already. You don't need to fight to be brave. Standing up for yourself is enough." The day continued, but Luma felt different. She walked with a little more confidence, and even the other students noticed. Some smiled at her as she passed. The bullies were still there, but now they seemed hesitant. Luma was no longer an easy target. That evening, Luma found herself back in the garden terrace. Jason had shown her the way yesterday, and she liked being there alone for a while. The flowers glowed softly, and the floating lights made the space feel safe. She thought about the bullies, about the human who had helped her, and about herself. She realized that bravery was not just about size or strength. It was about heart, and for the first time Luma felt a small sense of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could face the academy and not be afraid. The stars began to shine above the floating academy, twinkling like tiny promises. Luma looked up, her heart full of new courage. She was still small and she still had challenges ahead. But she knew one thing for certain: she would not face them alone. Somewhere nearby, Jason Riker was walking through the halls, helping other students. standing tall in his own quiet way. He had shown Luma the power of kindness and courage, and now the tiny alien girl was beginning to learn it too. The academy was a big place full of challenges and dangers, but Luma felt ready to take her first steps. And with a friend like Jason by her side, she knew she could face anything. The next week at the academy felt different for Luma. She walked through the halls with her head slightly higher, and for the first time, she noticed that some students smiled at her. She had stood up with Jason's help, and it had made a small difference. Yet even as she tried to enjoy her classes, Luma could feel eyes on her. The bullies from before had not forgotten her. They whispered in corners, casting glances that made her skin crawl. But she tried not to run. Instead, she reminded herself of Jason's words. Standing up for yourself is enough. One afternoon, Luma sat in a quiet corner of the garden terrace, her notebook open. She loved to draw glowing plants and alien animals she had seen in her studies. But today her hand shook as she tried to focus. A soft voice broke her concentration. Luma? She looked up and saw Jason approaching, carrying a small device that looked like a tablet. Hi, he said. Mind if I sit? Of course not, Luma whispered. Jason sat beside her and looked at her drawings. These are amazing. You really have an eye for detail. Luma blushed. I like to draw things I see. It helps me think, Jason nodded. I get that. Drawing can help you understand things better. He paused and then asked softly, Do you have any other talents? Things you're good at but maybe are too shy to show? Luma hesitated. She had always been small and quiet, hiding from the world. But now with Jason, she felt a tiny spark of courage. I think I can do something, but I've never tried in front of anyone. Jason smiled encouragingly. Then maybe it's time to try. Sometimes showing your talent helps you believe in yourself. Luma took a deep breath. She closed her eyes and concentrated. Slowly, a faint glow appeared from her hands. Tiny streaks of light danced around her fingers, forming soft shapes that floated in the air. She gasped. She had never let anyone see this before. Jason's eyes widened in wonder. That's incredible! What are you doing? Luma's voice was small but excited. I can control light. I can make it move and form shapes. But I'm scared. I might hurt something. Jason shook his head. You won't. You're careful and smart. Just start small and practice. You'll get better. For the next hour, Luma practiced under Jason's calm guidance. She made small floating lights, glowing animals, and simple shapes. Each success made her more confident. She could feel herself growing stronger inside, not in size, but in courage and skill. I never knew I could do this, she whispered, watching a small glowing bird float in the air. Jason nodded. You've had this talent all along. You just needed someone to help you see it. And now maybe the Academy will see it too if you're ready. Luma's smile grew. She had never felt so proud. She realized that being small didn't mean being weak. Her light could help, could protect, and maybe even inspire others. But peace never lasts long. The next day, the bullies noticed something different. Luma walked with her head a little higher, and her eyes seemed braver. They whispered among themselves. She's changing. That human is making her strong, the orange-scaled alien growled. We can't let her think she's better than us. Let's make her pay for standing up. They began planning a public challenge, something that would embarrass Luma in front of the whole academy. They wanted everyone to see her as weak, to remind her and others that she was small. Luma, unaware of their plan, continued practicing in secret. With Jason's help, she learned to control her light in more complex ways. She made glowing patterns, created illusions, and even moved light through the air with gentle gestures. Each attempt made her more confident. She could feel her fear shrinking, replaced by a quiet strength. Jason watched her with admiration. You're doing amazing, Luma. Just remember, it's not about winning or showing off. It's about being confident in who you are. Luma nodded. I think I'm ready for anything. Jason smiled. That's the spirit. But be careful. Not everyone will see it that way. The day of the Academy demonstration arrived. The school gathered in the central hall, a large room with floating platforms and lights from distant stars shining through transparent walls. Students from many planets were present, buzzing with excitement. Luma felt her heart race. She had never been in front of so many people. Her small hands trembled as she clutched her notebook. Jason gave her a reassuring smile. "You can do this," he whispered. The bullies were there too, smirking and whispering. They had prepared a tricky test designed to make Luma stumble. They expected her to fail, to look weak in front of everyone. When the demonstration began, students were asked to show their talents. One by one, creatures displayed strength, speed, and glowing abilities. Luma's turn came. She stepped forward, feeling all eyes on her. She took a deep breath, remembering Jason's words. "It's about being confident in who you are." Slowly, she lifted her hands. A soft glow appeared, growing brighter and forming shapes in the air. Luma focused, creating a small, shining creature that floated above her hands. The audience gasped. Jason watched with pride. Luma's fear was gone, replaced by calm determination. She moved her hands gracefully, making lights form patterns and illusions that danced across the hall. Even the bullies were momentarily silent, surprised by her skill. Luma's light did not harm anyone. It was beautiful and clever, showing her intelligence and control. The demonstration ended and the audience erupted in applause. Many students came forward, amazed at what she had done. The bullies looked at each other, realizing that their plan had failed. The orange-scaled alien's jaw tightened. "This isn't over," he muttered, but his voice lacked the confidence it had before. Luma stepped down, her chest swelling with pride. For the first time, she felt truly respected. She had faced the academy and shown that being small did not mean being weak. Jason approached her. "You did it, Luma. You were amazing." Luma smiled, her eyes shining. I didn't know I could do that. But I felt brave. I felt like I could be myself," Jason nodded. "And that's the most important thing. You've learned to stand tall, even when others try to push you down." The rest of the day passed in a blur of congratulations and quiet admiration. Luma walked through the halls with a new confidence. She had discovered her hidden talent, and she knew that it was only the beginning. But deep inside, she knew the bullies would not give up easily. They had seen her grow and they would try again. Luma took a deep breath. She was ready for them. She had strength now. Strength and courage, skill, and heart. And somewhere nearby, Jason Riker walked through the academy, observing quietly. He had given her the guidance, the support, and the example she needed. He had shown her that humans could be brave, clever, and kind. Luma looked at the glowing patterns she had created that day and smiled. She was no longer the timid little alien hiding in the shadows. She was a light in her own right, and nothing could take that away from her. The academy was full of challenges, tests, and dangers. But Luma had discovered her power. She had discovered herself. And with Jason by her side, she knew she could face anything the future held. The day of the academy's big challenge had arrived. The entire school gathered in the central arena, a massive space filled with floating platforms, glowing walls, and stars shining through the transparent ceiling. Creatures from many planets had come to compete, to show their talents and to test their skills. Luma's heart pounded. She had practiced her light powers for days with Jason, learning to control shapes, illusions, and movements. But this would be her first real test in front of so many eyes, including the bullies who still wanted to embarrass her. Jason stood beside her, calm and reassuring. "Remember, Luma, you don't have to impress anyone. Just be yourself and stay confident." Luma nodded. Her hands trembled slightly, but she remembered the glow that had filled her when she practiced yesterday. She took a deep breath and stepped onto the arena floor. The bullies were waiting. The orange-scaled alien smirked, whispering to his friends, "This time we will make sure everyone sees she's weak. She won't get away with her little tricks." The spiny alien had prepared a series of tricky obstacles for Luma. They were meant to confuse her, to make her lose control of her powers and appear foolish. But Luma had learned from Jason. She focused, her mind clear and calm. The first obstacle was a maze of floating platforms. Some moved slowly, some spun in circles. Luma's small size helped her navigate the narrow paths, and she used her light to create tiny glowing arrows that pointed her in the right direction. The audience watched in awe as the little alien moved gracefully, her hands leaving trails of shimmering light behind her. "Impressive," whispered a student from a distant planet. "I didn't think she could do it." The bullies scowled. Their plan was failing. Luma was small, yes, but clever, skilled, and calm. The next challenge was a wall of floating blocks, each emitting a strange energy field. Touching the wrong block would make the participant stumble or lose balance. Luma paused, studying the blocks. She extended her hands and created a soft, glowing bridge of light across the blocks. Her tiny light moved carefully, guiding her steps and helping her cross safely. Jason watched proudly. He had taught her patience, control, and strategy. Luma was using everything she had learned. The final challenge was the most difficult. The bullies had set a trap, a spinning platform surrounded by floating obstacles. If Luma faltered, she would fall and appear clumsy in front of everyone. The audience held their breath as she approached. Luma closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the rhythm of the spinning platform. She remembered Jason's words, "Be confident. Trust your own skills." Slowly she lifted her hands, creating a glowing shield of light around her. The shield moved with her, deflecting obstacles and keeping her steady. The crowd gasped in amazement. Luma's light was not only beautiful but clever. It protected her and guided her at the same time. She moved with calm precision, her small figure glowing against the arena lights. The bullies' faces turned red with frustration. They had expected her to stumble, to fail, to make a mistake. Instead, she was excelling. The audience began to cheer, amazed at the tiny alien's skill and bravery. But the orange-scaled alien was not finished. He stepped forward, trying to block Luma's path. "Stop her," he shouted. "She won't win." Jason stepped beside Luma without hesitation. "We don't need to fight. Stay calm and follow my lead," he said. Luma's eyes widened. She had never seen Jason like this before. Calm, confident, and ready to act. He was not afraid of the bullies. He was showing her exactly what courage looked like. Jason raised his hands and spoke clearly to the bullies. "This is your last warning. Leave her alone. If you try to stop her, everyone will see what you really are. Choose wisely." The bullies hesitated. Humans were strange creatures. They were smaller than most, not naturally strong, yet somehow fearless in ways others weren't. Jason's calm authority made them pause. Luma took a deep breath. She realized that she didn't have to do this alone. She had Jason's guidance, her own training, and her courage. Slowly she moved forward, her glowing shield protecting her as she approached the final platform. The spinning obstacles came closer, threatening to knock her off, but Luma's hands moved with precision, guiding the light to block each obstacle. She concentrated, feeling the rhythm of her movements, the flow of her power. The audience watched, silent in awe. Jason stayed close, ready to act if anything went wrong. But Luma didn't falter. She moved gracefully, carefully, and confidently. Finally, she reached the center of the platform. The crowd erupted in cheers. Students clapped, some whistled, and even the teachers were amazed. Luma had done it. She had completed the challenge with skill, courage, and intelligence. The bullies were speechless. The orange-scaled alien gritted his teeth. This isn't over," he muttered, but his voice lacked the confidence it had before. The audience had seen the tiny alien triumph, and they respected her now. Luma's chest swelled with pride. She had faced the academy, faced the bullies, and succeeded without harming anyone. Her small size had not stopped her. Her courage and cleverness had won the day. Jason approached her, smiling warmly. "You did it, Luma. I knew you could." Luma looked at him, her eyes shining.
I never thought I could.
"But with you here, I felt brave. I felt like I could do anything." Jason shook his head gently. "You didn't need me to do it. I was just here to guide you. The real courage was inside you all along." Luma smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest. She had discovered something important. Bravery wasn't about size or strength. It was about heart, focus, and believing in yourself. As the academy celebrated her success, Luma noticed the other students approaching. Some were curious about her powers, some wanted to learn from her, and some just wanted to say they were impressed. She realized that her small size no longer defined her. Her skill, courage, and cleverness did. The bullies, meanwhile, slowly left the arena. Their plan completely failed. They had underestimated the tiny alien and the human who had stood beside her. The orange-scaled alien muttered angrily, but even he could not ignore the respect Luma had earned. That evening, Luma returned to the garden terrace, her heart still racing from the day's events. Jason joined her, carrying 2 cups of a warm, glowing drink from the cafeteria. "You were amazing today," he said, handing her a cup. Luma smiled shyly. I couldn't have done it without you." Jason shook his head. "You could have. I only helped you see what was already inside you. Your courage, your cleverness, your heart. That's what won the day." Luma took a sip of her drink, feeling the warmth spread through her. She looked at the floating lights above the garden, thinking about everything that had happened. For the first time, she felt proud of herself, not just for her powers, but for standing tall, for being brave, and for believing in herself. Jason smiled, watching her. He knew that Luma's journey was just beginning. The bullies might try again, and challenges would continue, but she had learned something no one could take away. She had courage, skill, and heart. And with those, she could face anything. As the stars twinkled above the academy, Luma realized that being small didn't mean being weak. And somewhere in the halls of the academy, a human had quietly shown what it meant to be brave, kind, and clever. And together, they had changed the story of a tiny alien girl. Forever. The academy was buzzing with excitement the morning after the big challenge. Luma walked through the halls with her small figure glowing faintly in the soft light, but this time she held her head high. Students who had once ignored her now smiled as she passed. Whispers of admiration followed her, and even some of the teachers nodded in recognition. It was a new day for Luma. She had faced the bullies, succeeded in the public challenge, and discovered her own hidden strength. Yet she knew the journey was not only about power, it was about friendship, courage, and learning to trust herself. Jason walked beside her, casual and calm as always. "See, people notice you now," he said softly. Luma nodded, her green skin faintly glowing with a warm light. I think I can face the day without being scared," she admitted. "Even the bullies," Jason smiled. "You already have. And today maybe you'll see that courage and kindness can inspire others too." As they entered the central courtyard, they noticed the bullies sitting in a corner. The orange-scaled alien, the spiny one, and the humanoid with glowing eyes watched Luma carefully. They looked frustrated, but there was also a hint of curiosity in their eyes. The orange-scaled alien spoke first. She was really good yesterday," he muttered, barely loud enough for the others to hear. "Yeah," said the spiny alien reluctantly. "I didn't think she could do it." The humanoid with glowing eyes looked down at his hands. "Maybe we judged her wrong?" Luma overheard the whispers. Her heart skipped a beat. She had not expected them to change, at least not so quickly. But now she realized that respect was possible, even from those who had once tried to hurt her. Jason placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Sometimes people only change when they see the truth for themselves," he said quietly. Throughout the day, Luma was invited to join group activities she had never been part of before. She helped younger students learn about glowing light techniques, shared clever ways to solve puzzles in science class, and even guided some students through the floating obstacle courses. Her small size was no longer a disadvantage. It was a symbol of cleverness, courage, and perseverance. During one group activity, the bullies approached cautiously. The orange-scaled alien cleared his throat. "Hey, Luma," he said, his voice slightly unsure. Luma looked at him expecting some trick, but the alien seemed genuinely hesitant, not threatening. I wanted to say, "I'm sorry," he said slowly. "We judged you wrong. You're amazing." The spiny alien and the humanoid with glowing eyes nodded in agreement. "Yeah, we shouldn't have treated you that way," the spiny one admitted. Luma blinked, surprised. Her small heart felt warm. She had not expected apologies. But she also understood that real courage meant accepting them, even if it was difficult. "It's okay," Luma said softly, smiling. "Thank you for saying that." The bullies nodded, still looking unsure, but their tone had changed. For the first time, they saw her as a peer, not someone to mock. And that recognition meant more to Luma than she could put into words. Later that day, Jason suggested they practice some light exercises in the garden terrace. Luma agreed, eager to continue learning. They arrived to find the floating plants glowing softly, and the air full of calm energy. Jason handed her a small glowing ball. "Let's try something new," he said. "You can move it using your light like we practiced, but this time, try making it hover steadily without touching it. Focus on control." Luma concentrated, her small hands glowing with green light. Slowly, the ball lifted into the air. Her eyes widened as it floated steadily, responding to her gestures. She guided it in circles, then in straight lines, mastering the motion with growing confidence. Jason clapped lightly. "Excellent. You're really improving. Your control is amazing," Luma beamed. I didn't know I could do this so well." Jason shook his head gently. You just needed practice and belief in yourself. That's all it takes. As the day went on, more students gathered to watch Luma practice. They were curious, excited, and inspired. Many had never seen such skill from someone so small. Her tiny figure and glowing hands became a symbol, not just of talent but of perseverance and courage. Even the bullies watched quietly from a distance, no longer mocking, but learning. The orange-scaled alien whispered to his friends, "We should try practicing too. Maybe we can learn something from her." By evening, the academy had quieted down. Luma sat with Jason on the terrace, looking out at the stars. The glowing plants reflected softly in her wide eyes, and she felt a sense of peace she had never known. "Thank you, Jason," she said softly, "for everything. I think I understand now. Courage isn't about being big or strong. It's about heart and believing in yourself." Jason smiled. "Exactly. And you have plenty of heart. You've shown everyone that even someone small can shine brightly. And that's what humans and many other beings can do. We can inspire courage and kindness." Luma's green skin glowed softly with happiness. I want to help others too. Just like you helped me," Jason nodded. "You already are. Every time you stand up, every time you show your light, you inspire someone else. That's the real power." The stars twinkled above them, casting soft reflections on the terrace. Luma felt strong in a way she had never imagined. She was small, yes, but she had courage, skill, and a friend who believed in her. The next morning, the academy was even more lively than before. Students who had once ignored Luma now sought her company. They asked her questions, listened to her ideas, and watched her demonstrate her light abilities. The bullies, now changed, approached her with a new attitude. We want to work together," the orange-scaled alien said. "Maybe you can teach us some of your tricks." Luma smiled warmly. "Of course. I'd be happy to." Even the spiny alien nodded. We want to do better too. Can we start over?" Luma nodded. "Yes, we can all start over." The academy felt brighter that day. Students of all sizes and species worked together, sharing knowledge, practicing skills, and learning to respect one another. Luma's small size was no longer a target for ridicule. It was a symbol of cleverness, bravery, and inspiration. Jason walked beside her, quiet and proud. He had not needed to intervene today because Luma had become her own hero. She had learned to stand tall, face challenges, and inspire others with her courage and skill. As they looked across the academy, watching the students interact, Luma realized something important. Being brave, kind, and clever was more powerful than any strength or size. Humans had taught her that, and now she could teach it too. The stars above twinkled like tiny promises, and Luma felt hope for the future. She knew there would be more challenges, but she also knew she was ready. She had courage, she had skill, and she had friends who believed in her, and most importantly, she had learned that even the smallest creature could shine brightly, change minds, and inspire hearts. That evening, as the academy lights dimmed and the stars reflected in the floating terraces, Luma stood with Jason. "I think I'm finally ready," she said softly. Jason smiled. "I always knew you were, and now everyone else knows it too." Luma took a deep breath, feeling the calm and the warmth inside her. She looked around at the academy, at the students, at the glowing plants, and at the stars above. She was no longer the timid little alien hiding in the shadows. She was a hero in her own right, a small figure with a big heart, capable of amazing things. And somewhere nearby, Jason Riker watched quietly, proud of what humans could inspire: courage, kindness, and the strength to shine, even in the smallest of beings. The academy was full of life, learning, and possibilities, and at its heart was a tiny alien girl named Luma, who had learned that being small did not mean being weak, and that one act of bravery could change a life forever.